Hi, I'm Nick Rice, the inventor of Begriddled, a hugely versatile puzzle, paper and pencil puzzle that nobody really has heard of, and which has earned me nothing. This is the first video in a series telling the story of me changing that. So this is a Begriddled puzzle. It's got two parts. There's a grid of numbers and a sequence of numbers. The sequence tells you what pairs of numbers connect to each other. So here you got 0 joins to 9 and to 1, 1 joins to 0 and to 2, and so on. It's just the counting numbers basically in order. It's a circle. You only join numbers that are next to each other in any direction, like this. This is a simple one, but most of the puzzles have a second part to them where you do something with what you find. I'll put a couple of links in at the bottom where you can download and print out a couple of puzzles to try for yourself. Anyway, I came up with the idea almost 6 years ago, right at the end, towards the end of 2018. And since then, I've got a handful of books on Amazon. Just search for Begriddled. I have sold a few, but not enough to cover costs even. So it hasn't made anything so far. Where I am right now is that fairly recently I completed a book for a local attraction as a park, and I've got the book it's themed for the park, and I've got it in the cafe in the park, and I've got it in a busy newsagent and stationery shop, a fairly short walk from the park, and it's on Amazon as well. I've spent £85.97 on copies of the book. We're so far zero return on that. It's not looking too good, is it? But the whole idea is to make some money from this puzzle, make an income from it. And, not this book in particular, but the thing as a whole. I originally came up with the idea looking for something to be able to hide content, on a mug or on a poster or whatever, where you'd have no idea what was there until you colour it in. And I was at the beginning, I was thinking about colouring things in. I tried all sorts of things, but it wasn't until I tried a square grid and divided those squares into triangles that I found anything that worked at all. And I had some quite complicated way of indicating what you penciled in. It wasn't very satisfactory, really. But then I thought, what if instead of colouring in, you just join the dots in a square grid? And that was really the breakthrough, because I found I could do quite a lot with that. And that's what Begriddled is, really. That wasn't the end of the story, of course, because I had to come up with a way of telling the person doing the puzzle what dots to join together. And I had characters in between the dots, and it was a bit of a mess, really. It worked, but it didn't look very good. And then I tried replacing the dots with numbers, and I didn't expect that to achieve anything, but it seemed to be working. I was just there with pencil and paper and doing very small things that would take me ages, but it looked promising. And I quickly came up with the rules that I'm using today. I had some extra ones. There is a rule which is still there, really, but none of the puzzles that I'm doing at the moment have got where there are pairs of the same number next to each other, horizontally or vertically. But there is a rule that when you have that you join those together as well. But I'm not using that, and I don't have those in there. It does let you do a little bit more, but I like the simplicity of having of not having that there. I like the other puzzles as well, though. I didn't realize I could even get away without that for a little while. So the first two books do have that rule in there, and in some ways they're more interesting. So then my son came up with a little program that let me put in numbers and would put the joins in automatically. That took me from just pencil and paper, spending an age, crossing out, rubbing out, to being able to do that on the computer. And that let me explore a bit more and see some of the possibilities and limitations. And it meant that I could start to actually make some small puzzles. I'd already done that to some extent, but it took an absolute age. But even doing that, it took a long time. And I really needed to have, something that generated the numbers, not where I typed them in and trial and error and was changing them all the time until it worked. I wasn't really sure whether I could do that or not. I knew I could come up with an algorithm that would do it, but the problem is, even with a pretty small grid of numbers, there's a huge number of possibilities. So doing an exhaustive search, it would take far, far too long to complete, except on the smallest of puzzles. So that wasn't going to work. But anyway, I got that sorted out pretty much. So then I was able to make the puzzles for the first time. And a year after coming up with the puzzle, I got that first book out, Begriddled, a new kind of puzzle, which is you can get on Amazon. Just search for it if you're interested. And then a few months later, I got a logic book out, which turned out to be quite a lot more work. I spent literally days on some of those puzzles, designing them, and to generate the numbers as a separate thing, I could start the program, my script running before going to bed and get up in the morning and it would still be running. Not always at all, but quite often. And the problem was I had no idea then how long it would take before it would come up with a solution, and even if it ever would at all. Anyway, with lots of tweaking, I've got that sorted now, really, except for very big puzzles that do take a long time, and not everything is possible. The problem that I now need to crack, which I've been working on for a little while, but not very successfully so far, is popularizing the thing. Do you remember 2003? Nobody in the UK or the US or most of the world, except for some people in Japan, had ever heard of something called Sudoku. By the time 2005 came along, hardly anybody hadn't heard of it. How many people are left now who don't know what a Sudoku puzzle looks like? That's what I want to achieve with this puzzle. I do. Yeah, you can laugh, but that's what I want to achieve. And also, I want to make a decent income out of it as well. I'm going to leave it there as an introduction. So if you subscribe and do the little bell thing so you get notifications, then you'll see when I do the next video, and follow along with my journey and the journey of the puzzle as well, because at some point it'll take a life of its own. That's if I make it that it gets to be well known, which of course I think it will. I think I can achieve that. I think it will happen. That's what my aim is anyway. Okay, that's it for now. I'll leave you with a goodbye for now puzzle. I'll put a link in for where you can download it and print it and do it on a bit of paper if you like. And I'll give you the solution next time. Okay, do follow along.